Welcome to the DMAR Mastery Sessions. This is Nobu Hata, CEO of the Denver Metro Association of Realtors. And today I'm super stoked to bring you a good buddy of mine, Sean Carpenter of Sean Speaks, also a realtor out in Columbus, Ohio for your referral needs. Sean, dude, I've known you for, God, how long? I mean, almost 20 years now.
I can say 15 or 16, yeah.
Yeah, man, as both the corporate side of things, while also on the speaking end of things, but also on the realtor end of things. We've been talking for a while. I love how you not only walk the walk, but you talk the talk as well.
Yeah, I love the industry. It's something that's fun no matter where you're at. The old saying, all real estate's local, but there's a lot of things that don't change no matter where you're at, right? Customer service, taking care of your customers and clients, and my philosophy: build relationships, solve problems, and have fun. I just feel that but those are the three easiest ways for me to make sure that every day, if I do those three things, everything else takes care of itself. Build relationships, solve problems, and have fun, which will be kind of worked into my presentations every time I talk to you.
Love it. Love it. And for this session, Sean's going to be talking about building a better buyer. And Sean, take it away, my friend.
No problem. Happy to jump in here with these little real estate mastery sessions. I love what you're doing. Little nuggets of wisdom for people, no matter how long they've been in the business. And the cool thing, Nobu, is you and I both know there'll be people that have been in the business 20 plus years that are digging into these little mastery sessions just to sharpen their saw, as well as people that are brand new in the business. So let's talk about building a better buyer. There's two things an agent does. They either work with buyers or they work with sellers. And I know there's investors and those types of things, but let's talk about the buyer side, because building a better buyer, I don't want you to work with any buyers. I want you to work with the best buyers. So I'm going to use this little session to talk about 5 reasons to hold a buyer counseling session, and then dialogues to get one started. So, first thing I want everybody to understand is we as an industry need to agree that we're not going to be Pop Tart agents anymore. But we've seen too many people in our 20 plus years in the business that operate on a on-demand presence where a client calls and says, I want to see something, and we just drop what we're doing and we run and show properties. Guys, in 2021, that's just not the way we want to do business. We don't want to be an on-demand realtor. We want to be available, yes. We want to be able to help our customers and clients, yes, but we don't need to be on demand. And so let's all agree that we're not just going to drop what we're doing to go out and serve a client's needs. And understand there's probably people out there saying but Sean, in today's market, we have to be able to show right away. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about having some control of your business and not letting the clients control you, because you'll quickly learn in this business, either you control your schedule or somebody else does. And so when you sort of have a system in place to say, nope, this is the way I work, I start with a buyer counseling session, and then I have a better understanding, because really what we need to do is we need to diagnose our clients' needs first and prescribe second. I know I would hate to go into a doctor and say, doctor, I've just been feeling kind of painful in my belly for the last, week or so. If the doctor just laid me down and started cutting me open, I'd be like, whoa, doc, don't you want to ask some questions first? And so I think we need to diagnose our clients' needs first before we prescribe a cure for them, because every buyer's going to be a little different. And so jumping out into your car to go show a property that may or may not suit your client's wants and needs is why we want to do a good buyer counseling session. It really sets up the relationship with our clients. And so let's talk, Nobu, about kind of what I call the 5 reasons to hold that buyer counseling session. What are some of those reasons why you would want to make sure that you have a client come in and meet? And we'll talk a little bit about where that might be. But number 1 is to identify needs. There's 2 types of salespeople in the world. There's product focused and there's needs focused. Now, a product focused salesperson would be that person who is all about selling you a product. It's kind of that stereotypical salesman that we all picture when we think of salespeople. Sometimes a car salesman, right? What's it going to take to get you into this car today? And then there's needs focused salespeople, which find out what your clients want and need, and then find a way to satisfy that need and identify if we're even the right person to help them. It's interesting, Nobu, if we asked all your agents there in the DMAR marketplace to go out this morning with a clipboard to their local coffee shop, doesn't matter what brand of coffee shop they go to, but they're just going to stand at the door and they're going to ask people coming in to get their coffee a question. Hey, folks, before you order your morning coffee or tea, what do you think of salespeople? And then you just have to shut up. What types of things do you think you'd hear? You'd hear pushy, needy, aggressive, money hungry, right? And those are probably product-focused salespeople that you're thinking of. Yet if I called all of your clients out there and said, hey, what do you think of Joe Smith with the DMAR marketplace? Oh gosh, he was pushy, needy, aggressive. It was all about him. That's not how we want to be described. So we are probably needs-focused salespeople. We want to help our clients satisfy their needs. And so that's why we have a buyer counseling session to find out what it is they need so we can determine the best way to get that. The second reason to have a buyer counseling session is to gain control. Now, Nobu, I don't mean you're going to be a controlling person. You're not going to be telling people what to do, but just like a doctor is in control of visits, and just like an attorney is in control of visits, as the professional realtor, you're going to be in control of the transaction. You're going to say, welcome to my business. I'm going to help be the guide in this journey to help get you from where you are now to where you want to be at the end of the transaction when I hand you the keys and you move into your new home, condo, house, whatever it may be. But this is the way it works. And so we are going to be the professional in the transaction. We're going to be in control. Look, we don't get to go into the doctor's office and say, doc, here's what I want you to do. I want you to prescribe this medication for me, and I want you to do this operation on me. No, the doctor is going to ask lots of questions, and the doctor gains control. The dentist, the financial advisor gains control. And so the buyer counseling session gives us a chance to sort of say, here's how the process works. You're going to control the decisions as we go, but this is the process. The third reason to hold a buyer counseling session is to build rapport. And I think this is an important one that you really miss out on if you're a Pop Tart agent. Because building rapport, guys and ladies, is one of the most important aspects of our business. Building that rapport, that long-term relationship that's not just going to be for this transaction, it's going to be for hopefully multiple transactions through that client's course of their lives and all the referrals and relationships that they may have beyond that. So having a chance to build rapport, understanding their personality styles, their sense of humor, their anger, their fears, their pains, what are some of their concerns, and having the opportunity to do that up front before you actually get out into the pressure cooker of the market is such a huge benefit. I see too many Pop-Tart agents that are trying to build rapport one showing at a time, and it just doesn't work that way. Now, the fourth one is a couple parts, and it's establish expectations. You know, we all want to satisfy and exceed our clients' expectations, but we can't do that unless we know what their expectations are. So a couple different things when I talk about establishing expectations for our clients. The first one would be, what are the clients' timeframes? Right? When do they want to be in the house? Because if they say, oh gosh, I'm not ready to move in for the next year, well, I certainly don't want to start looking at houses today. Why would I put this person in my car and start taking time out of my schedule and time out of my current client schedule for someone that just wants to see everything? What if their timeframes are the next 30 days? Well, that completely changes everything. If they need to be in a place in the next 30 days, does that mean they need to be closed and with keys in their hands? Because that's going to completely change everything about our search parameters. Are they working with a qualified lender? All these different types of things. So finding out timeframes. You know, sometimes people may say, we want to start our process, but our lease doesn't end until a certain time frame. And it really gives us a good opportunity. Now, just a point of maybe idea or recommendation, and Nobu, you can maybe back me up on this. If a client's not ready to buy now, meaning let's say in the next 60 to 90 days, but they do want to meet with you to start the process so they can start getting their ducks in a row, or they want to start thinking about parts of the Denver marketplace that they might want to live in, I think it's a great idea to have your buyer counseling session now. And here's why. Even though they're not going to buy, let's say, until the second quarter or 90, 120, 180 days out, if I can build a relationship with a client and start becoming their realtor for the next 180 days, while they may not be ready to close for 6 months, their neighbor, their coworker, their family members might be. And imagine, Nobu, if I've already met with that client, kind of created that fiduciary relationship that I'm now working with them on their search, that all their friends and family, if they bring up real estate, I might be the name that pops into their head. So I think it's incredibly important to have that buyer counseling session early, instead of saying, well, if you're not ready to buy till the summertime, let's just meet at the beginning of summer. Let's get that relationship done early. The second expectation I'd figure out would be the agent's role. What do we do in the transaction? This is a great opportunity to show all the things that we do under the surface, behind the scenes that people don't see. People watch HGTV, they watch House Hunters. It's a 30-minute edited show, and they think all we do is drive around in fancy cars and open up doors. Well, let's explain to them what the agent does, how each day we're digging into the MLS, our multiple listing system, to identify new opportunities. We're talking to lenders, we're talking to title companies and attorneys and people at other agencies to find out what might be coming available. We also need to explain to them that we look at the inventory on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this would be a great time for me to ask, what sites have you been looking at online for properties? There's Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and all the other sites out there, including the brokerage sites. But when you ask that question, you can say, okay, and are you looking at it daily? Are you looking at it hourly? Oh no, I have 4 or 5 alerts set up on my phone. Okay, so we already know that they're getting pinged every time something hits. Let me ask you a question. When they get pinged, is that fresh information or is it sometimes 2 or 3 day old information? Let's explain to our clients that every day I'm looking at the information as it arrives. What you get sometimes on those third-party websites might be 2 or 3 day old information. In fact, let me ask you a question out there. How many of you guys have ever had a client call you about a property that when you look it up in the MLS, it's already in contract? It's already sold. Heck, sometimes it sold months ago, but they're just finding it on their website. And that seems frustrating for us and our industry. But garbage in is garbage out, guys. Sometimes the systems are messed up. So explain to your clients that every day you're looking at the freshest bread right from the oven. You can even smell it. It's so fresh. And what they're looking at is sometimes 2 or 3 day old croutons, right? And so this is what I do. And the third expectation I want to establish is how much house can they afford, right? The champagne taste with the beer budget. Nobu, I think there's every realtor in the world who's been in the business more than, I don't know, a couple months has had a client with a champagne taste and a beer budget, right? And so let's figure out early in the relationship what they can really truly afford. Now, you guys in a market like Denver, you're getting people moving obviously inside the market, moving from Denver to Denver, but you get a lot of people because your amazingness of your marketplace and your all the amenities out there moving from other marketplaces. So people coming from a big marketplace like a Chicago or a San Francisco or an LA or a Miami, maybe their affordability is going to match what your marketplace has. But what if they're moving from the plains of Kansas or Columbus, Ohio, and they say, well, I want an $500,000 house and I want to have this, this, and this, which would be a luxury house maybe where they live, but there it's maybe an entry-level house. Let's start establishing what their expectations are going to be, bedroom-wise, square footage-wise, land-wise, materials of homes. And when we can figure that part out early in the relationship, we're going to be able to exceed expectations instead of not reach expectations. Nothing worse than someone thinking they're going to get this, and you show them this, and they think that's our problem, that we couldn't fill that gap, right? Let's not make it what we provide. Let's make it about what the market is offering and have that conversation early so you can really maybe start softening some of the anger or frustration that they're not able to find what they're looking for in your marketplace. And obviously being able to demonstrate and show that and listen to their wants and needs will be important. And the fifth reason, Nobu, is to show value. I think it's incredibly important to hold a buyer counseling session to show the value that a full-time real estate professional brings to the transaction. You're going to have a lot of buyers that say, Nobu, I don't need to come in and see you. I've bought houses before. Well, I can appreciate that, Mr. Buyer, but I work a little differently than the other 1.4 million members out there. In my 23 years of the real estate business, I find that we can spend and save a lot of time up front on your transaction and not waste a lot of your time looking at the wrong houses. Guys, we need to understand the value we bring as a professional, right, is more than just a super key to get into the properties. It's about representation, it's about negotiation, it's about service, it's about taking care of the clients, and it's about being a good steward to your communities, right? We take care of our customers, we turn them into clients, we help our clients become part of our communities, and that's a huge value. And when we believe it and when we demonstrate it, it certainly is going to come true. So those are the 5 reasons to hold a buyer counseling session. Now, I don't want to just leave you with that. I do want to talk about, so how are we going to get people to come in for this buyer counseling session? Because the buyer counseling session is probably not going to happen over the telephone. Now, it certainly could happen virtually these days. In fact, I've done many buyer counseling sessions virtually, which we can talk about in just a little bit, Nobu, but you're probably not going to sell anything over the telephone. So we've got to get our clients to come in either to an office or virtual setting, whichever your marketplace or your brokerage is supporting at the time you're watching this video. So let's talk about a couple of dialogues to get someone to come in for that buyer counseling session so that we don't have to be a Pop Tart agent. So we're not told by the consumer at the other end of the phone or the other end of the email, I don't want to come in. I just want to see this property out in insert town on the outskirts of Denver on a Thursday night when it's 4 degrees out, right? Or when you've got your kids want to go to the pool in the summertime and they want you to drive, halfway across the city to show a property you've never been to before. So here's a couple dialogues that I really, really like. I use them all the time because they're great consultative in nature dialogues. How about this one? Why don't we get together and discuss your situation? No matter where that comes up in a conversation, either a phone call or an email or in person, why don't we get together and discuss your situation is a great way for you then to segue into, I'm available on Tuesday or Thursdays after 4 o'clock. Or why don't we get together and discuss your situation over the weekend, right? Love that dialogue because there's nothing salesy about it. Here's another one of my favorites. Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about your needs, talk about your plans, talk about your timelines and your expectations. Now, for some people, it might be, hey, let's meet up over a beer, right? Depending on who the clientele is and how you got the referral. But the idea is let's sit down, have a cup of coffee. And finally, this one. Would it make sense to identify and explore your options? Man, I love that dialogue. Someone mentions that they're thinking about buying a house. We say, would it make sense to identify and explore your options? And we go through and we give a couple dates or times that we might be able to meet with them. That's a great dialogue. Now, no, but let me have you jump back on here and mute yourself. As we look at these 3 dialogues, why don't we get together and discuss your situation? Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee. Or would it make sense to identify and explore your options? What do you notice about those 3 sort of dialogues? What's the first thing that you kind of hear when you listen to those questions?
Well, what I love about all 3 of those things is that it's you. It's what are your needs, Mr. Buyer? What do you want? Let's talk about you more than anything, which in real estate is very different because we're very realtor centric in the way we work.
Yeah, no, but that's a great pickup. You can tell you've been a professional in this business for a long time. None of the 3 dialogues have the word I in it.
Yeah.
It's not about me, even though I'm going to be the guide in this journey. It's not, well, Nobu, here's what I need to do. I need to have you and your wife come in so I can find out how much you can afford. I need to have my lender find out if you're worth my time. None of these are about me. It's about you. It's about us. It's we. Let us sit down, setting the example that we're going to create a team. You are the buyers. I'm the journey. I'm the guide in the journey. I'm the realtor. We're going to involve an inspector, an appraiser, a lender, right? All these other people. And we just sort of need to show them. So I love these dialogues to say, why do I need to come in? Because we're going to identify and explore options, because we're just going to have a discussion, because I'm not selling anything. I'm providing a service to help you along the way. And I think those are just some really good ways to do it. Let me give a couple maybe real life examples, Nobu. One of my favorites is at an open house, right? Back when we were doing open houses pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, certainly open houses will still be a great way for us to introduce ourselves to customers and clients. It's still a great way that buyers are finding their agents at open houses, right? Because it's a chance for us to create a relationship. But open houses, I love these. When someone walks into my open house and I greet them and I give them maybe something to look for in the house. And when they come back, I say, so what do you think? You want to buy it? A little smile on my face. And usually they're going to say no. And I say, well, let me ask you a question. How have you been looking at homes before today? And they say, oh, we just go out and look at open houses, right? We just been going out on Saturdays or Sundays to look at open houses. And I say, interesting. So can I ask you a question, Mr. and Ms. Buyer? You guys realize you're kind of looking for the needle in the haystack right now, the way you're doing it. Let me explain what I mean by that. In the DMAR marketplace right now, do you know there's about 8,000 homes for sale or whatever the number may be? 8,000 homes for sale currently on the market as of this morning. And on any given Saturday or Sunday, about 200 of those are held open. So for you guys to walk into the right house on the right Saturday that has what you're looking for, it would literally be like finding a needle in a haystack. And then you pause and let them think about that for a second. Wow, there's 8,000 homes available. Wow, there's only 200 held open. And that might be in the entire marketplace. That's not in your little neighborhood of Centennial or Waco or Golden. right? Wow. And then you pause and you say, so let me ask you a question. Would it make sense to identify and explore your options? Maybe we could sit down and have a cup of coffee. You could tell me what your needle looks like, what the things you're looking for in a house are. I could plug it into our big haystack called the MLS, and we could have it tell us where the needles are around the Denver marketplace. Don't you love that dialogue, Nobu? You really show them the value of, wow, there's this many homes. I didn't even realize that. And I didn't realize that for us just to go out and look for the right open house on the right Sunday doesn't make a lot of sense.
You know what I love about that that line as well is that it comes with actionable data, because not a lot of people actually know. In a time of estimates and accuracies all over the internet, you're bringing the actual data to an experience where you can build rapport just like that if you bring it at the right time.
Yep. And that's not really hard to do. Right before your open house, you open up your MLS, you search all active listings, it spits out the number, and at least then you just drop that number in your head.
Yep.
Right. And you can zoom that down from I would always start with a bigger number because that's a little more overwhelming. You could certainly talk about your, what's happening in Cherry or in Waco or in Centennial or, in the DTC, whatever it might be. You can specifically talk that, but you might use both those numbers. How about this one, Nobo? I love this one. Even though we don't get a ton of phone calls anymore, old school was people calling on the phones. But even now, though, people might happen as a text. I'm out in front of your property, right? And they ask you a question about your property. If it happens on the telephone, I love to use this dialogue. Sir, I can tell you all about that house. But what we found are houses are like people. And it's what's on the inside that really matters. Now, I know it's kind of a cheesy dialogue, but think about that. Houses are like people. It's what's on the inside that matters. So I can tell you it's got 4 bedrooms. I can tell you it's got 2.5 baths. I can tell you it's in the Longwood School District. But until you try it on, it'd be like calling a tailor saying, what's the thread count of that suit? Well, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't fit you, it doesn't matter what the thread count is. And so I can tell you all about those things, but I find that on the telephone, the caller wants to get off the call as quickly as possible. They just want their information. So if you want to lose the call quickly, say 4 bedrooms, 355 is the price. Hello? Maybe they were looking for 5 bedrooms. Maybe they were looking for 3 bedrooms. Maybe they were looking under 400. Maybe they had no idea what this house had to offer. So on the telephone, I love the dialogue of let's try and get more information out of them. Here's a great idea, guys. On the telephone, always play the game questions. Answer their question with a question. That has 4 bedrooms. How many are you looking for? That's in the Longwood School District. Do you have a specific school district picked out? I mean, anytime you can ask questions to try and get that opportunity to say, would it make sense to identify and explore your options? Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee or whatever the dialogue may be. And one more note before we finish up this session. What about in person, right? What about in the grocery store, the local pub, at the kids' ball games, the back of the church or synagogue? When someone says, hey, guess what? We're thinking we're going to buy a house in the new year. Hey, guess what? Our lease ends in a little bit. We were thinking about talking to you about helping us find a place. There's no real set dialogue for this one. You guys are in the business. Congratulations. You got your real estate license. That means you obviously have something to talk about, and that's real estate. Set it up by inviting them in for a cup of coffee, sitting down over a beer, but mainly saying, I'm a needs-focused agent. I'm here to be the guide in your journey, and I'd love to help you get to where you want to be as soon as you want to be there, right? And so buyer counseling sessions, guys, I'm telling you, is the way to go. Nobu, let's see if you have any questions for me. But if people want to follow up with me, they can reach out to me. I have a blog that I've been blogging now over 1,000 blog posts in 12 years called Carp's Corner. You can visit me on carpscorner.net, and you can obviously connect with me on all the social channels. But Nobu, what do you think? Buyer counseling sessions, yay or nay?
Yeah, man, I think it's so important to really bring a fundamental change in the way you interact with your clients from that initial get-go. I mean, you mentioned in the beginning, commission breath is the number one thing that people smell on agents when they're trying to get folks in the back of their car to go see houses, do the things that, hey, as a consumer, I think I can do myself. So yeah, now is the time, man. I've never been in a time now more, even in the past, 2 economic downturns that I've been a part of, that people need other people now in this business more than ever. Yeah. 2 things I really want to expand upon. This idea about rapport building, right? If you want to stop sharing your screen real quick so we can have a one-on-one. One of the things that I love about your talk was rapport building. Yeah, and probably the thing that has changed the most during this kind of post Zillow internet era, the era that we're in right now, which I think is going to go the next 5 years is going to be even more so, is the fact that rapport building, that period has changed. I mean, we're recording this end of December now. This is traditionally the peak real estate search times for the next year's business.
Yeah.
Right? Rapport building really starts now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, I think one of the dialogues I picked up from our friend Jim Duncan, right, who's a great agent out in Virginia. I love his. He used the dialogue. If you're thinking about buying a house in 2021, now's the time for those conversations to start. Right. That doesn't mean we need to get in a car and look at houses. We don't need to talk to a lender yet. We just need to start having some understanding of those expectations we talked about, time frames. How soon are you looking to be settled? How long have you been looking? If you found a home today, what would you do? Right? Those three questions give us urgency, motivation, and action. Right. And so rapport building, though, is huge because guess what, Nobu? I don't want to wait 90 days to find out that I'm not the right agent for this person. I want to find out that, man, not only am I going to be able to help this person, I'm going to be able to help their friends and their friends' friends because we get along together. Right. Who is your ideal client? Mine is a beer drinking sports fan with a good sense of humor, right? That's who I would love to work with. I'll work with you if you're a wine drinking, non-sports watching person that doesn't laugh a lot. We're just not going to have near as much fun as beer drinking sports fans with good sense of humor. But I joke about that, but I don't really. I want to try and build rapport with people so that they feel like they can trust me, right? There's the knowing and liking part of a cult-like relationship, right? But the trusting part's the critical part. And if I can get people to trust me because they know that I'm a family guy, that I'm a hardworking guy, that I'm a loyal guy, that I'm an honest guy, that I have a good sense of humor, and then all of a sudden the transaction part becomes almost second nature. No, but I know in your career, when you're up in Minnesota and you see your wife doing in Chicago, you work with clients for a while, and then when you finally have a closing, it almost feels like you got divorced because you spent so much time together the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and all of a sudden they get a house and you're like, now I don't feel like and that's why having a rapport is huge because then you know their birthdays and their anniversaries and their kids' names, and you've built up a little relationship that you don't necessarily, you're not going to move in, but you feel comfortable popping by with a bottle of wine on their 1 month anniversary. You feel comfortable calling up when you see that their kid had a winning goal on Facebook and, you know, in their soccer game. And right. I think that relationship is why you and I love this business so much.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's a reason why a lot of people get into it in general, right? But what I love about this time now is that you can have this initial conversation now via Zoom. To me, like, you're paying for Zoom right now. I think it's one of the best purchases you can get right now. It's the bang for your buck is incredible, but you can have these kind of distant conversations before you really go out there in the real world to go look at houses and be able to have this kind of rapport build over Zoom now.
Yeah, no, but I've done a couple virtual buyer counseling sessions, right? My clients just weren't in a position that they felt comfortable getting together. Really, right when the lockdown first happened, I did a couple and I made it fun. They were both referrals. I've done 4 or 5 since then, but the first 2 I did were both referrals from good friends of mine. Once again, my personality, I enjoy drinking a few beers right there up on the wall. But so we set it up. They were both first-time home buyers. We set it up as a buyer counseling session, virtual happy hour. I asked both the clients, I said, do you have a drink of choice? And I found out what they liked. One girl liked margaritas. The other guy, the husband liked Mexican beer. The other couple was a wine and beer drinkers. So I said, let's set up the appointment. We set the appointment up, sent them the Zoom invite. And 3 hours before the appointment, I dropped off at their house a basket with some selected drinks, with some snacks, and a little card saying, I'm looking forward to working with you. They jumped on the call. We did it like 4:30, 5 o'clock. We had a casual conversation. I was on Zoom able to pull up some of the forms that they were going to see. I said, I'm going to send these to you digitally for you guys' authorization, but we created the relationship through this same medium you and I are using. I was able to show them the forms that they were going to see. Then I was able to send them to them through our digital signing tool, which is another benefit because now they know how to work it. So that during the negotiations, it's not something new. They've never seen a dot loop or a DocuSign before. And so a lot of cool things you can do with that. And it also gives you that opportunity for people to see each other face to face if they don't feel comfortable. So great way to do that.
Yeah, but that personal touch is amazing though. Yeah, ask them what they want beforehand, deliver it, delight them so that they're more intrigued about how you work as a professional. It's fantastic. Lastly, Expectations. You and I have both been in this business for a long time. I think in the last, 5-10 years, I don't even want to go back that far, but since this advent of the information age that we're in, I think the expectations now are, as what you mentioned, buyers want to be part of the process. They want to see how the sausage is made. They want to be there while the sausage is being made, which in my mind is the biggest sea change in the way buyers are working now because of all the dreaming time they spent online watching HGTV. Do you agree?
Yeah. The fact that they've already been through the house before you show them the house, right? They've looked at the pictures. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the buyers walk in, they're like, oh, this room looks so much bigger on picture. Oh, I thought this room was gonna be great. Hey, are we gonna see this one at 1234 Main Street? I'm really excited to see that one because they've already been looking at houses. So the expectations are, yes, I mean, it's gonna be everything I thought plus some. And when you get that real life experience, and that's why setting the expectations of multiple offers, setting the expectations of being pre-approved, so that when people, I like to use the line, I don't want to have you be a buyer. I want you to be the best buyer possible. That's who you guys want to work with, is the best buyers out there, not any buyers, the best buyers, those that have been pre-approved by a professional lender, those that are ready, willing, and able to buy when they see the right property. And so, yeah, the expectations right now, Nobu, are, I want it now. I mean, some of you guys probably ordered something this morning that will be delivered this afternoon.
Yeah.
That's the mentality. And guess what? We can make you that type of buyer if you're willing to do the work to create the infrastructure needed, like an Amazon warehouse has, right? So by being, once again, setting up the communication expectations, right? How important is communication in today's working with buyers, Nobu, right? Responding to phone calls, responding to text, letting people know when you're available, and more importantly, when you're not available.
Yeah.
You don't need to be 24/7. Set the expectations, and also maybe set expectations that says, hey, Mr. Ms. Buyer, I know you love to communicate via text. So do I. It's probably the most efficient way. But there will be a point in the transaction that we may need to actually talk, because sometimes negotiating through text, something could get lost. And this is a big deal. This is why we don't do surgeries through text, right? We have to make sure that we are face-to-face, fingers to fingers, voice to voice, right? And by the way, a little tip, guys, some of the millennials don't know this. Inside your iPhone is a phone. There's actually a phone in there that will work to call people. Androids applies as well.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for helping DMAR members build a better buyer. What's the URL for your blog again?
carpscorner.net. You can also get there, SeanCarpenter.com, but carpscorner.net is where I've been blogging for years, sharing ideas on building relationships, solving problems, and having fun.
Awesome. Sean, it's been a pleasure. And again, this has been a wonderful real estate mastery session for DMAR members. Thank you for joining us, guys.